The morning sun cast long shadows across my ranch as I hammered the final nail into the new fence post. Sweat dripped down my forehead, despite the cool October air. This land had been in my family for 3 generations, and every inch of it was sacred to me. My grandfather built the original homestead with his bare hands, and I'd be damned if I let it fall into disrepair on my watch. I heard the cars before I saw them. 3 expensive SUVs kicking up dust on the dirt road leading to my property. My stomach tightened. I knew exactly who this was. The vehicles came to an abrupt stop just outside my fence line, and out stepped Patricia Whitmore, the self-appointed queen of the new Meadowbrook Hills HOA. She wore a pink power suit that looked absurdly out of place against the rural backdrop, her blonde hair sprayed into submission despite the breeze. Behind her emerged what I could only describe as her entourage. 2 other HOA board members and a man I assumed was her son, dressed in designer jeans and a polo shirt that probably cost more than my monthly feed bill. "Excuse me." Patricia's shrill voice cut through the peaceful morning. "You there? We need to talk." I set down my hammer and wiped my hands on my jeans, taking my time walking over the fence. "Morning, Mrs. Whitmore. What can I do for you?" Her face flushed red, and I could see the vein in her forehead starting to pulse. "What you can do is pack your things and leave. This property is needed for community development, and your stubborn refusal to cooperate is becoming a real problem." I leaned against the fence post I just installed, crossing my arms. "Is that so?" "Last I checked, this is private property. Been in my family since 1947. Your HOA has no jurisdiction here." "That's where you're wrong," Patricia snapped, pulling out a folder from her designer bag. "We've been doing research, and there are several code violations on this property. The county has a right to seize land that doesn't meet modern standards. And besides, my son Brandon here needs a place for his equestrian center. This location is perfect." Brandon stepped forward, looking uncomfortable but entitled. "Look, man, we're willing to offer you fair market value, maybe even a little extra. Just take the money and find somewhere else. There are plenty of farms for sale." I felt the anger rising in my chest, but kept my voice calm. "This isn't about money, son. And for your information, there are no code violations on this property. I've made sure of that." Patricia's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that. If you don't leave voluntarily, we'll force you out. I have connections, you know? Lawyers, county officials, people who matter. People who matter." I repeated slowly, letting the word hang in the air. "That's right," she continued, her confidence growing. "You're just some ranch hand who probably can't even afford proper legal representation. Do yourself a favor and don't make this harder than it needs to be." One of her board members, a thin woman named Carol, chimed in. "The HOA has already approved the equestrian center. It's going to bring so much value to the community. Your little farm is standing in the way of progress." I took a deep breath, counting to 10 in my head. "Ma'am, I'm going to ask you politely one more time to leave my property." Patricia's face contorted with rage. "How dare you? I'm not going anywhere until you agree to sell. Brandon has dreamed of having his own equestrian center since he was a child. He's entitled to pursue his dreams." "Everyone's entitled to pursue their dreams," I said quietly, "but not on someone else's land." Patricia pulled out her phone, her hands shaking with fury. "Fine. If you won't listen to reason, I'm calling 911. I'm going to report you for trespassing." I couldn't help but let out a short laugh. "You're going to report me for trespassing on my own property? This land should belong to the community. You're trespassing on what will soon be public development space." She was practically screaming now, her face the same shade of pink as her suit. She jabbed at her phone screen and put it on speaker. The calm voice of Jenny Martinez. one of our veteran dispatchers, came through clearly. 911, what's your emergency? Yes, hello. This is Patricia Whitmore, president of the Meadowbrook Hills HOA. I'm at 4755, Old Ranch Road, and there's a squatter on this property who refuses to leave. We need him removed immediately. He's being hostile and threatening. I hadn't moved an inch, still leaning casually against my fence post. Jenny's voice remained professional, though I detected a slight change in tone. Ma'am, can you describe this person? He's about 6 feet tall, dark hair with some gray, probably in his 40s, wearing dirty work clothes and... Ma'am, Jenny interrupted, is he wearing a flannel shirt? Red and black plaid. Patricia looked at me, confused. Yes, but what does that? Mrs. Whitmore, I'm going to need you to calm down and listen carefully. The property owner at 4755, Old Ranch Road, is Sheriff James Cooper. You're currently harassing the county sheriff on his own property. The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia's face went from pink to white in about 2 seconds. Her phone nearly slipped from her hand. That's not possible, she stammered. You're the sheriff? I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my badge, letting the morning sun glint off the metal. James Cooper, county sheriff for the past 12 years. And yes, before you ask, I'm off duty today, which is why I'm working on my fence instead of wearing my uniform. Brandon took a step back, looking mortified. Mom, maybe we should go. But Patricia wasn't done yet. Her shock quickly transformed back into indignation. Well, that doesn't change anything. Badge or no badge, this property is still in violation of. Of what exactly? I asked, my voice taking on a harder edge. Because making false claims to law enforcement is a crime, Mrs. Whitmore. As is filing a fraudulent 911 call. As is harassment. Would you like me to continue? Carol grabbed Patricia's arm. Patricia, we need to leave. Now! But Patricia jerked away, though I could see the fear creeping into her eyes. You can't intimidate me just because you're the sheriff. I have rights. Brandon has rights. You're absolutely correct, I said, pushing off on the fence and standing to my full height. You have the right to leave my property immediately. You have the right to stop harassing me. And you have the right to contact a real estate agent to help your son find an appropriate location for his business. One that's actually for sale. This isn't over, Patricia hissed, but her voice had lost its conviction. Actually, it is, I replied firmly, because if you or any member of your HOA sets foot on my property again without permission, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. And if you continue to spread false information about code violations, I'll have the county attorney look into charges of defamation and attempted fraud. Am I making myself clear? The fear was fully visible now. Patricia's hands were shaking as she shoved her phone back into her purse. You're abusing your power. No, ma'am. I'm protecting my property and my rights, same as any citizen would. The badge doesn't give me extra rights, but it does mean I know exactly what the law says. And the law is on my side here. Brandon finally found his voice. Come on, Mom. This was a bad idea from the start. I told you we should just look at the properties actually listed for sale.